Well, I've had some positive feedback about the YouTube. I hope that you've all find it helpful. If you don't, just ignore it, because this is the first class that I've incorporated this. So others before you have done this course quite successfully without the YouTube videos. So this video is to tell you about week 3 and 4. They're grouped together to help you develop a health promotion program using Pender as a guide for that. So for week 3, specific to week 3, you're going to identify a topic that's of interest to you. You probably already have something in mind that you know is sort of your soapbox, and now's your chance to get up on that and preach a little bit. Just be sure that it's not too close to you. Sometimes when students pick a health promotion topic that is very emotional for them, they get really broad and scattered and have trouble focusing. So, you know, if you have a close relative who's dying of cancer, you might not want to pick that right now. You're going to include assessment data information, and that's what it says in your tips. That's really the background. Why is it that you've chosen this? What's going on in our society that makes this an issue? You might want to use some statistics. Remember, if you get things from other materials, so you need to cite those. Although there's not a requirement here for a certain number of citations. Don't tell me that the incidence of breast cancer is 25% without giving a citation, because I know you had to get that from somewhere. You're going to identify your target audience, and sometimes students have been really lax in making that manageable. Like, you don't want to say that you're going to prevent childhood obesity. Well, yeah, like what age group? Do you mean worldwide? Or are you going to really want to target the elementary schools in your county, or maybe just the elementary children who attend the local scout group? You don't worry about getting it too little. The thing is that you're eventually going to have to write a grant for this. So you need to pick the size of audience that you can actually get financial figures for and be realistic when you get to the next assignments that are coming up and you need to develop this grant. So that's what you're going to do for developing, identifying your target audience. Then the last part of week 3 is that you're going to use the 9 steps in the Pender book in chapter 5 and talk about those in your paper. Now, that part of this paper is worth 75 points, and that's week 3. Then we go on to week 4, and we are going to continue that paper, develop some goals and objectives. The one thing that I want to mention to you about goals and objectives is that these need to be very specific and measurable. And so if I say that I'm going to have a goal for my program to teach everyone to be healthier, well, yeah, how am I going to ever measure that? How am I going to prove to my funders that I have done that? So just make the program goals measurable. Then the objectives, those are participant objectives. There's some adjectives that active verbs that are more difficult to measure. For example, that if you say that your participants at the end of a certain length of time will be able to understand more about being healthy. How do you measure understand? You need to be more specific. Like, they'll be able to list the major food groups. They will select from a menu a healthy diet. Those kinds of things that at the end you can actually go back and ask them to do this for you, and you can measure whether you've met your objectives or not. That's going to be very important also when you write your week 8 assignment, which is an evaluation tool. I think students lose more points over the goals and objectives than anything else in these papers. So be specific. They have to be measurable, they have to be realistic, attainable, and they need to have a time element. So it would be like at the end of the first session, at the end of 6 months, but remember that means that 6 months you've got to go back and measure. So be careful about your time element also. Another part of week 4 then is to take your background information and bring it back down to be more specific with your target audience. The background that you wrote for week 3, it's broader. It has to do with obesity in all children. Now you're going to tell me about the obesity in your county or other information that you can get, and those too will need citations. You're going to discuss the strengths and competencies of your target audience. This is another reason why you want to be careful about how you've defined your target audience in week 3. Don't do your week 3 paper without looking at week 4 expectations. The next thing that's required is that you include a biblical worldview section. Now, it's best if each of these sections have their own headings. Then when I'm grading, I'll know just exactly what you were thinking and intending when you wrote that section. Your biblical worldview is not, we're not asking you to do any kind of Bible thumping here. We're hitting people in the head about how they might be sinning if they don't eat the proper food. But you have a worldview that you come to this class with, and you use that and those experiences when you develop these programs, and we're asking you to share a little of that. Then the next section has to do with selection of a health model theory that's guiding your program. This will come from the work that you just finished last week. Pick one of those 5 health belief models that you used and show how you're going to incorporate that into your health teaching. I gave you an example of that in the last video about the percentage of people with breast cancer. How are you going to take specific elements of that model that you selected and make it come to life in your programming? Then you're going to identify barriers and support systems. This is part of Lewin's change theory. Someone who's teaching health promotion is wanting their participants to make a change. So you are using change theory here. Then you're to respond to one other student's response. Please help them make their paper better. You're in here, learning community to help each other succeed. Thank you.